Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this cool detailed stars and galaxy effect in After Effects. We're here in After Effects now, and the first thing we want to do is click here on New Composition and create a new composition. I'm going to keep my aspect ratio at 3840 by 2160 so we get a nice crisp 4K resolution. I'm going to hit OK. The first thing we want to do now is create the stars that are going to be our stars in the background. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to come down here, I'm going to right click, go to New, and then create a solid. Now we want to make sure that solid is completely white, so just click down here and make that white, hit OK, and we're going to hit OK again. Now we can come over to our effects and presets and type in ball, and we're going to select ball action here and drag that on to our layer. So for a project like this, we're going to have completely different values depending on what kind of galaxy we're trying to make. But strictly for this video, so I don't have to spend a lot of time looking for different values that look good, I'm just going to stick to the exact values that I used before in a previous project. So feel free to use these same effects and just change the values if you'd like to get a different look, but I'm going to be trying to stick to exactly what I did before just to save time. So let's go from there. So let's change some values up here in the CC ball action. I'm going to change the grid spacing to 3, the ball size to 4, the scatter to 142, and the displace to 300. So now we have some stars all around here. And one more thing I forgot to mention is you're going to want to have this entire project in full resolution so you can see all the stars. See, right now we're not seeing too many, but as soon as I hit full, we see a whole lot more because we have a full resolution. And one thing we should always do, which I am bad at, is naming our layers. So we're going to come here and rename it. I'm going to say something like background stars. All right, perfect. Now we can get to actually creating this galaxy. So I'm going to come back down here, and once again I'm going to right click, go to New, and then create a shape layer. Now with that selected, we want to make sure we have no stroke. So if you do have a stroke, make sure you just click here, get rid of that. And then we want our fill on, so we're going to use that one right there. Then I'm going to come over here to this shape tool, hold down, and make sure I get the ellipse tool. Then I'm just going to zoom out a little bit and then create a shape, something like that. Come down here to this arrow, open that up, and then open this one up down here and change the rotation to 40. I think it's better to have this a little bigger, so I'm just going to drag this out and then maybe make it a little wider too. All right, so something like that. Next thing I want to do is change the color. So I'm going to come up to here where it says fill, click on the color, and then I had a specific color for this. So feel free to choose whatever color you want, but the color that I was using that looked pretty good is 7798D5. Then we're going to add another effect to this. So we're going to come down here to our effects and presets, and I'm going to type in turb. So then we get turbulent displacement here. I'm going to click on turbulent displacement and drag that onto our shape layer. Now the values that I have for this is where it says amount, we're going to switch that to 8, size to 400, and complexity to 10. Then we're going to come back down to the effects and presets, and we're going to type in blur. And then the one that we want to use is Gaussian blur right here. So I'm going to drag that onto our layer. And then we're going to turn this up quite a bit. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type in 1000 so we get really blurry. Then we're going to add one more effect onto here. So I'm going to come back over to effects and presets, get rid of that. And then we're going to type in turb again. And we're going to use the other one this time, turbulent noise. So I'm going to drag that on there. And then I'm going to change contrast to 45. Make sure complexity is at 6. And then down here at opacity, we're going to change that to 70. Now we're going to adjust the layer's opacity. So we're going to make sure that all this is open, transform is open down here. Then where it says opacity, come over to the 100, and we're going to change that to 35. So it's just barely a glow right there. And then of course we want to make sure that we name our layer. So I'm going to name mine something like glow region. So I'm going to rename glow region. So basically for this project, we're just going to be doing a lot of what we just did and just layering everything so it all works together and it looks like a galaxy. So with that being said, we're going to select our glow region down here, this layer, and we're going to hit Command D to duplicate that. Now we want this region to be a lot more narrow. So what I'm going to do here is with that selected, I'm just going to move this in until it's something a lot more narrow and we get this kind of inner glow effect going on here. I think something like that looks pretty good. All right, so with this layer selected now, we're going to change a few things. First thing I want to change is the color. So I'm going to come back up here, and then in this code here, I'm going to use a color that worked for me before, C1CEEE. Hit OK. Now over here in the effects, under turbulent displace, we want to change our displacement to horizontal displacement. Then under amount, we're going to do 20, size 192, keep complexity at 10. Then under Gaussian blur, we're going to change that to 400. And then under turbulent noise, we're going to change the contrast to 55. Then we're going to come down here, open this up, open transform up, and then under opacity, we're going to change that to 60. All right, so we have this inner glow effect going on now. All right, I'm going to close this to make it a little more neat, and we can leave that name just how it is, glow region 2, because that's what it is. Now we're going to move on to our next layer. So once again, we're just going to select this, the one that we just made, and we're going to hit Command D to duplicate that once again. Now I'm going to move this one into position. I want it to be even skinnier, and then I'm just going to bring this down a little bit. This is going to be a bit of an orange region. So with that being said, we're going to select the color up here, and we're going to change this to an orangey color. So one that worked for me was FFDA9D7. So then once again, we're just going to change some of these values up here. We're going to keep it at horizontal displacement, change the amount to 60, the size to 250, change the blurriness to 100. Then down here under turbulent noise, we're going to change the contrast to 140, brightness to 33. And then come down here, open this up, and we're going to change the layer opacity to 40. Now I'm going to change the color of this layer to orange just so we can keep track of it. And I'm going to call it orange region. And get rid of that 3 there. Now we're going to move on to our next layer. So once again, I'm going to select the layer that we just made and then hit Command D to create a new one. I'm going to change the color to a purple hue. So one that works for me is 371E51, and then hit OK. And then I want to make this one even skinnier than the last. I'm actually going to move this up so it goes throughout the entire galaxy, somewhere around there. And then with that layer selected, we're going to change some values once again. We're going to change the amount to 75, size to 290, then the blurriness to 140, the contrast to 150, the brightness to 25, and then we're going to change the layer opacity down here to 85. And then I'm going to rename this to purple region. And I'm going to change the color here so we can keep track of it to purple. So that's how we're looking so far. Now for the next step, you guessed it, we're going to duplicate this layer again. So click on the one we just made, hit Command D, and create a new one. So now this one's going to be a pink region, and we actually want this one under our purple one right here. Now I'm going to move this layer into place. I don't want it throughout the entire galaxy, so I'm going to move it down just a little bit. We're going to change the color up here, so click that, and then the pink color that worked for me was C4A6E5. Hit OK. Now we're going to change these values up here. We're going to keep all of these the same up here, keep the blurriness the same, but then on contrast, we're going to change that to 80, and then change the layer opacity to 32. Now let's see how we're looking here. I think that looks pretty good so far. We have this purple that goes all throughout the galaxy, a little pink down here, and then the orange. Now I believe we have one more layer that we have to make right here, and that's going to be this dark layer that we're going to have around the sides here. So let's do the exact same thing, but this time we're going to actually duplicate this orange region down here. Oh, let's change this name right here so we can keep track of that. Pink region. And then change the color here to pink. And then we're going to select that orange region and we're going to duplicate that. Now we want this one a bit wider, so we're going to widen this. And I'm just going to move it up just a tad. Probably actually go a little wider here. I'm actually going to rename this one right now so we don't get confused to dark region. We're going to take this layer and put it under the orange region. And then we're going to change the color and some values once again. Come up here, we're going to change this to a brownish color, so 231A00, and hit OK. We're going to keep all these the same up here, but then change the contrast to 105 and the brightness to -25. Then we're going to come down here, open this up, open the transform up, and change the layer opacity to 25. Now let's see how this is looking. I'm going to click here and hit fit. So far, that's looking pretty good. All right, so what we actually want to do here is get some stars inside the galaxy so it looks like we have a big cluster of stars right in the middle. So the first thing we're going to do is come down to our background stars layer, and we're going to select that and hit Command D to get that again. And we're going to drag that to the top. And just so we don't have the exact same stars in the exact same place, in our effects controls, we're going to change the scatter and just bring it down just a tad, just so we get the stars all in different spots. Now we like the way that looks, but we want to get a glow around these new stars that we made. So how we're going to do that is we're going to select this one here and then duplicate that layer. Then we're going to come over to our effects and presets, and we're going to get that Gaussian blur effect on that layer once again. Let's come down here, Gaussian blur, bring that right on top. Now we're actually going to increase the ball size to 5 on this layer, and then on that top layer, let's bring it down to 3. We're going to select that second layer, and then if we zoom in, we can just increase this blurriness value until we get some glowing stars. We don't want too much glow, so we'll increase it to something like 15. Since I think there's a little too much glow around these stars, I'm actually going to come down to that second layer there, and we're just going to bring down the opacity just a little bit. We'll go to something like 50, just so there's a little bit of glow, but not too much. So now we're just going to select these two layers, right click, and then make a pre-composition. We'll call this inner stars. We're going to hit OK. And then I actually just want these stars only within this glowing region right here. So how we're going to do that is come down to our glow region, duplicate that layer, bring it right under the inner stars, and then we're going to make this a matte for the stars. So if you don't see this track matte option right here, you can just click down here to toggle that, and then we're going to hit where it says no matte, and then click glow region. Now it looks like the stars kind of disappeared, and that's because our opacity on our glow region is lower. So we're going to open that up, go to transform, and bring that opacity all the way back up to 100. So now we get the stars back. So if I toggle this on and off, you can see that those stars are only within that glowing region that we just made. Now I'm going to rename this layer to stars matte. Now to make it look like we have a ton of stars in this purple region right here, I'm actually going to try a different effect. So we're going to come over to this purple region, click on that. Then in our effects and presets, we're going to type in noise. And we want this noise HLS right here. I'm going to drag that onto the purple region. Then I'm going to zoom in here. And the only value that we need to change is this lightness value right here. So we're going to bring that up, and you can see that we get some noise introduced to that layer right there. I think something like 13 looks pretty good. So now if you look really closely, it kind of looks like we just have a ton of stars in the middle here. And if we zoom out, you can see that it's a lot more detailed. We can actually bring that up a little bit when we zoom out. Let's see. We'll go 15. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. You can see that we pretty much have the full effect here right now. But there's actually one more thing I want to do to make this really pop and to really animate this. So what I'm going to do is actually select all of these layers right here, right click, and then pre-compose. And we'll just call this galaxy. I'm going to hit OK. And then this effect here is really going to make this galaxy pop. So we're going to select that pre-composition, come over to our effects and presets, and type in curves. We're going to take that curves effect, drag that on top, and I'm going to make a point right here, and then right here, and then I'm going to bring this down until it kind of darkens it and really adds some contrast to our galaxy. And now I want to make some stars flying through so we can actually animate this galaxy. So I want to get one more layer of stars here. So I'm going to double click on our pre-composition to open it up, come down to our background stars, select that, hit Command C to copy it, and then come back over to our overall composition, composition 1, and then I'm going to Command V to paste that on top. Now just so it's not the exact same again, I'm just going to increase that scatter just a tiny bit so we get a different look, and then now we can actually animate this. So I'm going to bring the player head to the very beginning, select that background stars layer, and then where it says displace, we're going to click this little time button here And then we're gonna open this layer up, open the effects up, open the ball action up, and then under displace, we're gonna move this to, we'll do like 15 seconds. And then we're gonna bring this displace up, not too much, but somewhere like 320. So now we can look at how that actually looks. Now I want some glow around these stars, so we're gonna do the exact same thing we did with the last one. And since this is already animated, we're gonna close this, select that stars layer, duplicate it, and then get that blur effect on there once again. Gaussian blur, bring that to the second layer. And then if we zoom in, we could just bring that up. We'll bring it up to somewhere like 17. I think that'll be pretty good. And then actually I'm gonna bring down the size to 3 on here since we're gonna be pretty close to them. So now the next step to make it look like we're actually getting closer to the galaxy, we're gonna come into the galaxy layer, open this up, make a keyframe on scale at the very beginning, and then I'm gonna open up this layer from before, open up effects, and then we're gonna hit this little arrow here so we're at the exact same frame where this effect ends. Come back down to our galaxy layer, and then we'll just bring up the scale just a tiny bit since it's really far away. We don't want it to zoom in too much. We'll go to like 104. And just like that, we are finished. So now we can take a look at the final effect here. I just want to thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.